Good to go.
You can go ahead and start recording now, Nintendo. All right, thank you. As I said earlier before everyone joined, I apologize if I have to stop due to a coughing fit. I'm getting over a sickness I had earlier this month. But other than that, we will go ahead and start. I have been authorized to release some information from Yami but covering the Kickstarter bells. They will be released 3 per month starting on February 22nd. They will not be gacha for the most part, from what I know. Most will have maps, that's all I know about that, and they will be incorporated into core and permanent maps.
Yay!
That's the fun announcement I was told to make. So think of that as you will.
Woohoo!
On to the first question from Wellington, a very typical one. Is Renown, coming soon?
That is a Yami question, and I'm disappointed, Wigbert, that you didn't ask her.
Well, I've got other.
Unfortunately, I don't know. I mean, as you guys know, from my perspective, I mean, I've seen her art. I think she's done, but I'm not the art director, so sorry.
I don't. Her story definitely exists.
Yep.
That's all I can say on the matter.
I don't think it's out of turn for me to say that there is a time frame for her release. I remember seeing it. What that time frame is, I couldn't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And for the recording, Diff, do you mind going over the publisher thing again?
Yeah, for sure. So I just got out of a meeting, and we're in talks. I can't say that we walked out of there with an agreement. That would be lovely, but once we have a deal, we will let you guys know ASAP.
All right, thank you. Wellington's third question is, are there any current plot lines that the current GMs are running that they're enjoying seeing play out, like Frenchifying Mischief or Mussolini somehow becoming politically competent?
I am absolutely enjoying Mischief and France's love-hate relationship.
You mean love relationship? No. Those are two who found each other. I like Mussolini. That was a big laugh, and I think DH is over the moon still.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to admit, he is he is quicker and more sophisticated when it comes to Japan. I think it's just, but he really wants Italy. I can feel the pain of the German players because they are ruining. Every time they crash, my plotline also crash. So I look forward to the next 2 plot lines we start this week and what comes of them.
Hopefully things go better for them this time around.
And I am totally curious how Narvik and Norway will play out.
I'm sure a lot of us are. It's been going.
And there is one plot line I have discussed with the French already, but I will not reveal for operational security for them. I won't throw my teams, both of my teams, I won't throw them under any buses.
I'll go ahead and open that question to the staff members as well, since I'm pretty sure someone asked that later on anyway. Diff, Janker, are there any of the current storylines that you guys like?
So I think what Corky said is maybe the most relevant to my interest, which is what is going to happen in Narvik. that is what I am watching carefully. Well, and of course, we have looming on the horizon events in France that will be interesting.
Of course.
And with events in France, I'm sure he means the fate of the Daladier government and nothing else.
Of course.
Yes.
That's going to happen.
Obviously, that's what I meant.
Be preposterous. All right, moving on to Wellington's last question then. This may have been answered before, but how long will the community bells be staying in the shop available for purchase with Diplo points? Will they be forever available with Diplo points, or are they going to disappear?
No. I think you guys unlocked them, right? You sort of earned them. So I think from our perspective, that was always the point, right, of the community bells, is that you guys could have a hand in sort of who's coming up next, and really fill it with some interesting choice.
Okay.
So I don't think.
Sorry, go ahead, Diff.
No, I was going to say I don't think we'll remove them. But I also am not 100% in control of that, so yeah, I guess we'll see.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Moving on to Alex's question, then their first one. While we have touched that it's expensive to design and add a bell in-game, is it possible for players to help fund the addition of certain bells, other than in-game items, to the game, or mirror bells if we approve of each said bell by the devs and DMs? Or if you have approval?
So this one provoked a whole lot of internal conversation. So we really like the idea. We really like the idea.
Yeah.
Because it helps get more bells in there. But here's the thing: I don't think you guys properly appreciate the cost, like the real cost, right, of putting things into a game like this. It's not thousands. It can be tens of thousands, right? People have to pay, fairly, and there's artists and there's art and technical research, and then the actual testing and implementation in the game, and so on and so forth. So I love the idea of it. I think that if the community at large decides that that's something that they're interested in, we can really take a good hard look at it. But honestly, crowdfunding happens for a reason, and when you're sort of dealing with a specific nation that already winnows down number of possible people contributing, you know what I mean? It just seems like it would just get out of hand.
Yeah. Calc, the question was basically, can we crowdfund bells for all intents and purposes?
And our response is yes, but are you sure you want to crowdfund bells? It's free.
Yeah, big crowd, bigger fund.
Alex's second question, then, obviously his most important question is, will we see Ireland become its own playable nation with it receiving its first blue water ship?
I mean,
No.
I think we would love to have much more nations in there. I don't think that that's a priority, at this time, but I couldn't comment on the timing of that. Like, will that come first or will that come second? But we'd like to add more miners.
I think if we do Ireland first, a lot of. I mean, we have an Argentinian player. He will be mad. We have probably Surströmming coming from Sweden in artillery grenades,
and not to mention the Brazilian fleet, and then of course
it's so much more and bigger than. This really got out of hand, and I take it.
Yeah, like never say die.
But don't bet on seeing an Irish fleet in game. Got it. Okay.
No. I mean, they have half a ship. Okay, half a ship. It's not even in the water in the
have
moment.
Half a bell then. Fine. Alex's third question is, what exactly is going on with all the ocean liners, or the ones laid down or in construction, such as SS America or MV Bianca C, receiving guns? Are the companies desperately selling the oldest of their fleet off to the Navy as AMCs or fast transports? Original timeline, a couple would still be doing cruises, for example. One of theirs is in the island chain near Hawaii.
Yeah, nobody's doing cruises.
Can you even imagine?
Back to Diffa, there is a big pleasure cruise going on, and I call it that all the time because the Japanese are just out there having a pleasure cruise around the world and
just enjoying things. Yes,
they have a gay old time, and they just I finally came up with something to try to stop them, and they roll a bloody 20.
Players, man, players.
Yeah, no, it was great, but no, they're absolutely pleasure cruise. So if you have ocean liners, put them with the fleet. And funny you mentioned ocean liners because I too mentioned ocean liners to Taylor a day ago. But he can tell you about that.
All right, then. And Alex's final question is, if we go by the original timeline deal originally proposed that included all 3 cruisers sold, it also meant the 6 turrets meant for Scharnhorst class were sold to the Russians, along with the plans of the Bismarck and Graf Zeppelin. Are they building CVs now as well? This plan obviously referring to the one between the Soviets and the Germans. Or this deal, excuse me.
That's a quirky question.
Okay, if that's a corky question, no, the turrets aren't sold, but they got the plans. Because why shouldn't they get the plans? They don't have the tech to build it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So they're not building aircraft carriers in Russia yet.
Probably not, because the Germans aren't sharing this time the technology, because the player base decided they probably want to try to build it first.
Okay.
So they would need the parts they otherwise could export.
Sounds good. Next questions are from Free Jones. First one being, what languages do Morganas use to speak with humans? Do they speak all languages?
I think that's Jank and Earl Grey.
Jank, do you want to take this one?
I mean, as far as languages are concerned, it's kind of a default thing I think that they slip into. Like, if you were talking one-to-one, if you as a Bell or as a Morgana, as a ship girl in general, if you as one of those were talking to a crew member, somebody who is critical to your functioning, you would be able to communicate with them by default. But like, don't ask Destruction to go and translate Don Quixote from the original, right? You know, you do have to put in some effort beyond what is immediately necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Morganas, of course, you know, part and parcel of their functioning is the broadcasting of propaganda and you know, one or another demoralizing message to the human race at large. That, I think, is more or less universally intelligible through means that we are still struggling to comprehend. And you know, whether or not we want to comprehend that in the first place is part of the question, isn't it?
True.
Sure is. I think we
every
can safely say
not every Morgana is at every shore. So maybe only those who speak the language attack the US. I don't know.
Perfectly
I
possible.
think we can safely say that Mischief speaks French now.
Yes, one of them does at least.
So enemy number 1. Got it. Let me update the list. All right. And Free Jones' final question is, where do I-7's scales come from? I-7 being the submarine that was recently teased. If anyone knows. I certainly don't.
Oh man,
Me neither.
Me neither.
I mean, the same place that any accoutrements would come from, I imagine, if you were a Bell.
yeah, I think Yami holds the key to this one.
All right, then I will ask her later. Then when I have to answer
it's an easier question to answer from a lore perspective, certainly, than from a art design perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Super Rommel, the next person. They have a couple of questions all about Hosho. So if no one knows anything about Hosho, please let me know now.
I know nothing.
She is outside my division.
Can I get the ding sound?
Jake knows some of that, but I would not be able to tell you the others. Yami would know the other part.
Okay.
Yes, well, I can answer the height question, certainly. I finally stumbled across the list again. She's a 5'10".
Got it. So the answer to how tall she is, 5'10". But we do not have an answer for what kind of sword blade she has, or if we have it on hand, the length of said blade.
Mm-hmm.
I will have to make another note to ask Yami that one as well and get back to Super Rowan.
Yeah, she has access to the mural right now.
Okay. The next question's from Rovensol. What happened to the Dragon Carrier Bell from the first QnA? I don't actually remember if that was the first QnA, but I do remember the teaser.
Yeah, I was just we were just in a meeting about this. She's slotted. I know when, but I can't comment, unfortunately.
Okay, but she is coming still. Got it.
Yes.
Good to know. Then the next question's from Agano. Would you guys be willing to look into giving certain types of ships special roles in combat outside of the tactics system later into the game, so as to give all types of ships a more fair representation / purpose in the game, or even just giving players the ability to run custom tactics instead of relying on Bell-specific tactics?
So both of the answers to those things is yes. Hold on just a second. Both of those answers is yes. So we, if you ever notice in the fleet selection screen, you've got 7 bells. There's actually room for an 8th. That's because that 8th slot is meant to be an auxiliary or some type of complementary role. Right, which when you place the bell into that slot, she has an alternate function, if you will, than just straight, battle line. Likewise, we planned for, and you can actually see it in game from the drop down. If you ever see the tactics, there's actually a drop down there, and the intention is that you'll be able to cross train and modify the tactics, but until we have a publisher and we have resumed what is, in effect, normal development cycle on Victory Bells, both of those have to remain as placeholders for now. But absolutely, it's our intention.
Okay. Excuse me. Next set of questions are from Gladys. What's the deal with the Despair Live 2D model as can be seen in the intro, and who serves as the picture for the road story? Will we ever see it in-game or in-story?
Yes, I certainly in game, although I don't know when they're going to do the alt costumes for Morganas. But yeah, certainly. Jank, do you know anything about story?
Story-wise, I'm not aware that that she's special outside of already. We have the variants on the different Morganas. As far as I'm aware, she's just one of those.
Mhm.
Okay. And that ties into the second question, which was, will there be alt costumes for Morganas? You said yes, Tiff.
Yes, yeah, I think you guys have already seen several alt costume Morganas, right? I wouldn't call them named Morganas per se, but they certainly are playing a little bit more of an outsized role.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Our third question is there anything we can do to help with your publisher search beyond what people are currently doing?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question because one of the things about the market, right, is that it is really subject to sort of what's going on and what the environment looks like. So who knows what the specific action would be that would trigger the most possible positive outcome. I can tell you that anything folks can do to let people know about the game and boost our visibility in the store is probably the single most helpful thing. But beyond that, I mean, if you know a publisher, bring it to us. And Gladix, you did do that, right? You sent us the contact information of a French publisher, and so we did actually attempt to make contact there. So thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Fourth question. How do you feel about the general direction of the meta story so far?
Well, I think I answered this, last time. From our perspective, at a certain point, if you're going to give a baby over to somebody, right, in this case, Corky, you gotta stand by and have faith, sort of in that direction. Otherwise, don't give up the baby to begin with, right? So I can certainly tell you that the meta story isn't the direction that we originally planned to go, but that doesn't mean that it's any better or worse. Right? It's just the vision of the fan team.
Yeah, one factor is it was never intended to let the players have so much agency. But with the slower circle and my free time and stupid ideas, so of course there are now story branches that were totally unintended.
Mhm.
Okay.
I like
Which,
your
by the way,
ideas.
from our perspective, is just freaking awesome.
Mhm.
Right? That is
Yeah.
the coolest.
Thank you.
You guys have really given us an opportunity to do some emergent storytelling in a way we couldn't normally do in a game with a more traditional narrative. I think it's really cool to see.
Yeah, everyone talks about interactive gameplay, and I said, why fucking not do it this way? and Div said, okay, try it. And now he lets me try and try and try. And so far, he hasn't told me to stop. So
We haven't done anything crazy enough yet, then.
Yet.
Yet.
that is not why Div would stop me.
You know me well.
I know you long enough.
Well, Alexis' fifth question's already been answered earlier, so we'll move to the sixth. Does asphyxiation have crew? If yes, where are they?
Jank, Earl Grey, I think that's you guys.
Well,
Just
she
tell me-
first. Sorry, go ahead.
Just tell me when I should bonk her for such questions. I know where they are coming from.
Yeah, I'm inclined to shoot down the idea of asphyxiation with crew. I don't think she needs the help.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So no.
But we will make an exception for you, Glatex.
Okay. Moving on to the next questions. These are next question, from Schwartz. Do RDFs work like real radars? Because currently the ones we have don't have the accuracy to direct fire, only spotting and range finding. It isn't much of a big deal with the limited advantages and perks right now, but optimal setups with focus on reliability and range accuracy might make some difference if they do indeed work as in real life.
Yes, they do indeed work as in real life, and behind the scenes, there is a simplified radar equation that is taking in these parameters and causing them to return, an average result. What it can't do is properly understand sort of clutter and reflection and atmospherics and so on and so forth. You mentioned reliability, which is an interesting one. Reliability worked differently earlier in the game, but we couldn't find a good UI solution to sort of explain to people. Reliability is a big deal. Here's a broken diode for you, right? We'd like to bring that back so that things like shock of the gunfire, shock of being hit, plus the very poor life on these components, are represented in the game. But again, that would be for the future.
Okay. Moving on then to the next set of questions from Mig. Their first one being for Diff specifically, what are your top favorite bells? I'm sure we've asked you this before, but I don't remember.
Yeah, that's a really tough one, because it sort of depends on what it is that what angle I'm looking at the bell for. So one thing's for certain, I think maybe my all-time favorite design is probably Provence. I really like her whole kind of look. There are some new bells that you guys haven't seen before that are just they really knocked it out of the park. I also am a fan of like some of the older, original designs that Salmon did, and I think Lampo maybe might be my favorite amongst that set. So I don't know. I'd have to sit down and study the answer to that. That's kind of tough.
Okay. Then moving on to Mig's second question, and I apologize for most likely butchering this name, but I don't speak Russian. Where did the name Bezboznik come from? Someone actually looked into Russian sources and didn't find anything about it being an actual name for the submarine. The only source of the Bez name is English Wikipedia. Not even the Russian wiki mentions it.
Yeah, I mean, and that in turn comes from probably a Cold War era book.
Mhm.
There's no real right or wrong answer for this one. We had the sources that we had when we were putting it together, and if
Yep.
we discovered exactly. So if we discovered that people called her Bez Bojnik or whatever how you pronounce that, that's what we followed. I think even now, as I step back and I'm kind of understanding that, hey, that may not have been her actual name. Even now, then it would come down to, well, we do need a way to distinguish her from L3. So
Can I say something?
Sure.
So when you're talking about literature, there's two ways to analyze any text. There's the Watsonian way, which is how do we look at this in universe, and the Doylist way, which is how do we look at this out of universe. Out of universe, it's like the Doylist take on this is what Diff said. We had the sources we had the information we had. Sometimes there's human error. The Doylist, the Watsonian explanation is whatever your headcanon is. I personally like to think that she chose her name in a fit of patriotic fervor very early on in her life, and then came to have some complicated feelings about it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the third question, then, what would the prospective Napoli Bell look like, especially since she's switching over to being under the care of Eritrea? Perhaps, I will say, spoiler alert, nobody's sure if they're, Mussolini's actually going to let that happen.
We actually had her kind of sketched out and outlined. I think for some time. But if we do Napoli now, I think we might get enterprising and interested Italian captains involved in that discussion. So I think that might be
at my disposal.
yeah, right. That might be a community. That might be a community thing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Fourth question is: can we have more behind-the-scenes posts on Bell design, like what you guys did with Minneapolis when she came out? On occasion, if it's not too taxing, Big would be interested in to see something like that for Bez and Barilish. I'm not even going to pronounce it. Not many people have the time.
Yeah, I mean, I know Yami and the team in general enjoyed putting that together. Certainly, it's worth asking. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know what the feasibility of that would be, but certainly I could ask.
All right then. Next question is: how far into completion are all of the 1940 bells? Have the artists started on the 1941 bells yet?
Oh no. And her last question, we're running out of completed bells. Not even close.
Okay.
not even close. But how far into completion are all the 1940 bells? Well, we envisioned a lot of them, right? So I don't know, 50%, something like that. We're not into 1941 except for a couple notable ones that we just really felt motivated to do, and you guys know who they are. But I do enjoy this comment though. The public hunt is taking longer than usual. I wish I knew what usual was.
Yeah. I'm afraid I have no experience in game design, so I couldn't really tell you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also a very interesting climate right now. I think, as most people understand, a lot of the investment into gaming has collapsed as a result of some of the economics that happened in the past 2 years. So I don't know. I'm just glad they're talking to us at all, frankly.
That's fair. And their final question is: why is one of Verilla's no, I'm not doing it. Nope, someone else can pronounce it for me. Why is one of her
Voroshilov, meine Güte.
Thank you. Why is one of her vestures a model of an arrow wagon? It was a failed experiment that killed several important people in 1921. I would have expected that to be more of a sore spot for the Soviets.
You know what? I think I know the answer to that question. I believe I actually know the answer to that. But what I don't know And what I'd need to talk to Yami about is how much information about Voroshilov has actually been released. And so I'm sorry on this one. I'm gonna have to keep mum because I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay. Moving on to the next set of questions from Peruka. First one being, lately I have been doing some testing for my AA, and I encounter some weird stuff. Without entering into the details of the results, are AA guns supposed to stop working once they destroy the first target that they lock onto?
Yeah, so you've hit upon a kind of an interesting, I won't say dilemma, but an interesting kind of facet. So it depends on the sort of guns that you're talking about. So if you have a larger caliber gun, their job is to explode in a certain predefined place, so as to create a barrier, right? So they didn't really usually track incoming aircraft. They instead set up these boxes of where your shells were meant to explode, and then that would deter the aircraft, right, from carrying out the attack. Now for direct fire weapons, that's a different story, right? You're supposed to get on target and track the target, and the target dies, you quickly pick out another target, right? So I don't know what scenario you're testing, and also I haven't looked at that piece of the code in, oh my God, like 8 months. so I'm not 100% certain, but the answer is maybe, possibly.
Okay. And their second question is about subs. As someone that doesn't know anything about this kind of stuff, is there a reason why subs, when using submerged torpedoes, only launch half of them and then bravely run away?
Yeah, so making the assumption that you're talking about like the ammo, right? Like, so a sub torpedoes usually have like sort of two, sort of ammo units, right? So in World War II terms, the loading of a torpedo is a considerable time and effort. Minutes, certainly. Tens of minutes, right, in some cases. And in a combat situation of the type that we are sort of describing here, it doesn't really take place over that same time frame. So while it is true that there were certain times, for example, the sinking of the Royal Oak is a good example, where submarines did reload in a combat situation. That was mostly because they weren't being attacked, right? They weren't actively evading. The crew were not, kind of at their stations, bracing for impact, and they had, ample opportunity to kind of reload the torpedo. And I don't recall that there were any real innovations that would enable them to reload faster throughout World War II, although I might be mistaken about that.
Okay. The next set of questions are from Recroftney. First one being, are there any unreleased ships that will have to be reworked due to decisions made by the player base?
Oh, that's interesting.
You can answer.
So Jank and Earl Grey, I think maybe there are some personality changes. I don't think anything changes via the art or the base game data, but personality, has any of that been incorporated? Are there any changes that you guys see?
Yeah, as far as unreleased go, yeah, not that I'm aware of. Earl Grey?
Yeah, for the girls I've worked on, I don't really have the big picture. I tend to focus on specific bells. But what I can say is that the character arc so far will not change, but some of the specifics of how their stories go might.
Okay. And their second question is, how is targeting handled in game? Do ships simply target the nearest enemy, or is there a weighted targeting system in place?
Yeah, it's actually based on their tactics. So the concentration of the batteries, and then who their preferred target, all depends on what fleet command your flagship has. And in the absence of that, it is random. Now ships will target, preferentially bells or Morganas rather that are close to them, identifying them as a larger threat. But beyond that, no, it's all depending on the flag command.
Okay. Moving on to the next set of questions from Cervantes. Their first one being for for stats such as crit defense, citadel flood, or crit defense main battery 1 turret destroyed. Does the stat modifier help prevent the equipment from becoming flooded or destroyed, or lessen the chance of critical hits after it has become flooded or destroyed?
It helps prevent the equipment from being flooded or destroyed by reducing the chance that a critical hit of that type will occur.
Okay. And what, if any, are the long-term plans for the game should the publisher not be found?
Well, I mean, clearly we're all still here, so that's a positive thing. But as long as the players continue to fund more than the server cost, the game will remain up. As long as the player base continues to fund more than that, there will be incremental adds, whether that's bells or mechanics. It's just that what a publisher unlocks is not only a larger player base, right, which is important, for health, but also the ability to add in like really new and interesting and cool features, right? There's a bunch of stuff that's burning us up, right, because we can't actually do it. We can just plans of doing it, right? So hopefully that will not occur. But yeah, we don't. Yeah, we've had the experience ourselves because we're gamers. We had the experience ourselves where a game that we love playing is just not available one day because it didn't meet some threshold. That's not really us. We'd like to stay in it as long as we possibly can, as long as there's active and interest, there. Of course, yeah, we'll keep putting time in.
Okay. And next question's from Virgo. In March 1942, the IGN renumbers its Kaidai submarines, example being I-68 to I-168. If a Kaidai belled before that date, does it still get renumbered, or is it up to the bell to decide?
Yeah, Jank, Earl Grey, you guys got a thought on that?
Jank would know better than me, but my initial knee-jerk reaction is it depends on the bell.
Yeah, there are, as we've discussed with Bezbojnik, there is precedent for bells having some influence over their own naming. By and large, I think it would remain according to the conventions that the Navy in question has in mind. If a bell has a different opinion, she will make it known, and likely as not, she will be accommodated.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Why
the only
did they change it?
Right. I think that
my very first question as a showrunner. Why did they change it? And is that reason still valid in the VB verse? That would be my first, or is my first question, or the question I will throw at two heavens.
Okay.
And it's just like with people. Some people care a lot about their name. Some people,
That too.
you could just call them "Hey you," and they'll just
For example, U29 makes a point that she's glad she has just a number and not a proper name.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got Bezbojnik with her
exactly
3 and growing nicknames.
And there we have them. And yeah, look, Virgo gives a good point. They added plus 100 to all Kaidai subs so they can free up more names for the cruiser subs. Yeah, they promote all Kaidai by 100. Hooray! If they sell it like that, probably all bells are like, hey, I'm promoted by 100. Yeah, I don't know. It's 2040. Yeah, it's 42, so 1942 is a long way 2 years actually. In March.
All right. The next
Mensch,
question.
mon ami, das wird nicht passieren.
The next question's from Strafe. What is the status of Kilkus and Limnos, the Greek pre-dreadnoughts? In the original timeline, they've been decommissioned with their main guns removed and placed in coastal fortifications. Have the Greeks made any attempts to rearm these ships so far? If anyone knows.
I would venture the opinion that if their main guns were removed, the Greeks are very hastily trying to put them back on.
Fair. I'll have to ask TH later then if he has any knowledge of what the Greeks are doing with it.
Yeah, actually, he would be the first I would consult on this, because currently Greeks are more in his department than mine.
Okay. I will make a note then, Strafe, to ask TH later and bug him about it. The next question is from Apothes. Will Galicia require 2 million German or Spanish channels?
That's a great question. I mean, obviously Spanish is what it should be, but I sort of feel like it must be German.
I know.
Why not both?
That's a fair.
No.
Could make it both. Not. I would caution and or. You know.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, as an alternative.
Not 2 million of both at the same time.
If you use 2 million Spanish, you get a bonus of some kind, some mascot or some vesture extra.
Alas, that one might be a little bit of a chore to put in, but
somebody will do it.
Would not be as good as making it cost 8 million Italian though.
Yeah, true.
Make it cost more Italian. Always more Italian. And the last set of questions are from Uber Random. The first one being, are there plans to expand the HQ level cap higher than 200?
Well, yes. That is our intention. I can't say factually that there is an intent to do that now, prior to a publisher, but yes, that is our intention.
Okay. And their second question is, this ties into the EXP economy and balance decisions regarding the usage of auto clickers / macros. Obviously, there must have been internal discussions regarding such tools. Can you share the status of any spitballed plans for a continuous auto mode or being able to queue auto battles that would be on the table after development is able to resume when a publisher is found? Is that the sort of thing that a publisher would have sway over?
Right, because of that last part, that would actually be so when a publisher comes, right, there's an aspect of the monetization, right, the game design in that area, right, that they're going to want to take over because it's the reason for their investment, right? So that's the quid pro quo, unfortunately. So I wouldn't know the answer to that one.
Okay. And their last question is, are you aware of the fact that the brackets ship gun damage buffs are being used in the damage calculation twice? It results in these buffs mainly talking about Dahlgren's beauty being worth absurdly more than the numbers imply, and also means the calculated damage stat on the gun when equipped is completely divorced from how much damage it actually does.
Yes, and unfortunately and super annoyingly, we are aware of that. And the reason why we have not applied a fix is because it is part of. Actually, I think Uber Random, weren't you talking about this earlier? It is part of the sort of the component nature of the weapon systems and the fire control and the range keeper and so on and so forth. So we have to get into that system to cure it. And obviously, we've not been able to cure it. And the answer, Alex, is no. I have the squeaky chair. It's insanely comfortable. I can never get rid of the squeaky chair.
All right. Well, Alex's other questions beyond the squeaky chair one. Are we going to see a future League of Nations plan or such to help restore one or both of the Spanish battleships, similar to how we are, or Italy, when I say we, is helping restore a ship for Greece? One sank in 1938 on the coast, which had a large movement to Razor in the 60s and 70s. The other suffered a crippling explosion in dry dock.
Ask the Armada Española.
There you
We have an active Spanish fleet in this server.
Mm-hmm.
It's just tiny. But if he doesn't care, I don't care. He gets one plan a week.
His second question is: can we make or will we ready? Oh wait, can we make or will we be? Will we already see a fast ocean liner fleet for the intent of making up on the backlog of orders and goods from the Atlantic shutdown?
I imagine that's not game mechanics, but rather storyline, Corky.
Yes, it's a more of a
Mhm.
storyline thing.
Okay. I have to read that. Sorry. Where?
Oh, let me reply for it for you. Here's the reply button. There you are, Corky. The second question, and that's it.
Whoop. Oh, there. Oh, it's an Alex question.
Yes.
Oh, that thing. Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, you can send all ocean liners you want across the Atlantic. Yeah, sure. No. I wonder what will happen.
Okay. And
Especially since the British fleet just turned around, but that's none of my business what they do with their ships.
And this is another question then for you, I guess, Corky. Is Greece trying to order another battleship again?
Nope.
Okay. Let's see. From Apothes, will the experimental cruiser Renard be recruitable in game one day? And I'm sure I butchered that pronunciation as well.
No, you did a good job.
Nice.
All I hear is Renate. That was an in-joke between me and the French. I think not even the Germans are aware of that. And by the way, I have a new comfy share. That's very nice for this Q&A.
Nice. Yes, will eventually, if the French plans work, will we be able to see, I guess, the first experimental cruiser, quote unquote, in game? Like, that'd probably be more of a diff question if diff ever gets back. So I guess we'll skip that one for now.
Definitely seems like a diff question, yeah.
Yeah. I guess this was for you. Calc's next question: when is I'm not pronouncing its birthday in game?
That is an excellent question and one I do not have the records for right now.
I just took a glance at the sheet with that information on it. She's listed as the 20th of June.
You're back, Diff. If the French plan works, would we get the first quote-unquote experimental cruiser in game eventually? Do you think?
You're asking me?
Yes,
I
the
mean,
experimental
we
cruiser being.
They're talking about actual Bell in the mobile game.
we would love to do anything that is cool and interesting and historical and also kind of off the wall, but obviously heavy investment into a Bell of that type. It would just have to come into the queue, right? And just whenever it worked its way through the system.
Okay. And just to clarify, they are talking about Mischief, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
No
mischief?
comment there.
No comment.
All I know is Renard.
Yeah, of course. You're pulling back the veil for at least one question.
French cruiser Renard. Renard.
Yeah,
It's so hard to switch in one sentence from English to French and
let's see if there's...
Where I stand on it is that more bells are always good. The ability to put more bells is always limited.
Wait a few seconds to see if anyone else has any other questions. But we are getting probably close to the end for you, Div, right?
Yeah, I got a little bit longer. I see Latinic has a theoretical question. How would HK ASW fleets work? Well, I mean, right now you get yourself 7 destroyers, high speed if you can, and your choice as to whether or not you want your sonar to be able to move at high speeds or low speeds, but generally British is what you want. And you send them out there to hunt down the subs. So that works right now. If you're talking about maybe some of the late war tactics that they used, well, they don't have surface search radar on those destroyers, and some of the tactics haven't evolved. Where one destroyer is maintaining sonar contact and the other one's depth charging and so on and so forth. So all that would be in the future, and that is different mechanics, right? Because there are fundamentally different ways to attack than you do now in 1939.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like they're more asking late war.
Oh yeah, no, that's just different mechanics. Just a totally different approach compared to the kinds of tactics that they're using right now in 1939. And actually, in the game, you guys are using what is it? Medium range, I think, is the tactic that you guys use. There were far worse tactics used. I mean, the Germans just lined up and just jet charged, like in a big line. And then the French didn't have sonar at all, so good luck with that. And then the British also used like a pounce, which enabled the U-boats to evade pretty well. So anyway, yeah.
Another question that was sent to me, but I know it's been asked before, and I remember the answer, but I'm asking it now to see if any progress has been made. Has any progress been made on a list of what all the home front support vestures actually improve?
Well, no, because one of the things that you guys were asking for is that random portion, but that random portion contains like a full list.
Okay.
Right? So it's every possible combination. So yeah, I can build it, but it takes some work.
All right. Alex, sure. No, Apotheos wants to know if
Alex, we actually and I'm so sorry I've forgotten his name. We actually sat down with a French radar historian, and definitely we are aware of everything that's contemporaneous to 1939. I would not describe it advanced. That's not the adjective that I would use.
They are also afraid to say Gruppenheuchgerät.
but they did have some benefits. There were certain aspects to it that were more interesting, and of course they did have the first seaborne radar, right, which is on the Normandy, I believe. So there's some accomplishments there for sure.
Apotheos would like to know how much tangible impact does hunting speed on the sonar actually have compared to beam depth?
Yeah, very, very significant. So, but it's a choice that you have to make. So, the greater the hunting speed, the less time the U-boat has to evade, if you've placed your depth charges correctly. But the higher you're hunting the speed, the greater the noise your propellers are putting out, which decreases your accuracy. So you have to decide what's more important. Historically, they ended up thinking that hunting speed was possibly the more important because they had streamlined domes to reduce the noise that the propellers gave off. And that's modeled in the game, but you can make your own choices. Yeah, Latinic, that's actually set up for, but obviously that's a mechanics change.
That's in that often wanted R&D 2.0.
Well, no, that's separate from R&D 2.0.
Okay. It's been a while since we talked about R&D 2.0. No one asked about
I know.
I'm
gonna weep a couple of tears here because it's so freaking awesome.
Well, figured I'd ask since no one else asked about R&D 2.0.
Yeah, well, we get the right publisher.
We can have
we'll be able to do it. It's awesome, Rose, but it's also nowhere near being built.
Yes, Wellington. No renowned spoiler or tease beyond the fact that the story's done. Her story's done. Technically, I think, or being written. I don't remember exactly.
I said her story definitely exists.
It exists. Okay, those are the words being used. Toxic Tuna wants to know why there's so little action aside from just watching in direct combat.
I think I would attribute that to sort of the original concept of the game. Now you got to remember that Victory Bells was conceived of, and we began work on it about 8 years ago, right? Quite some time ago. And originally, Victory Bells was sort of our love letter to QnA, if you prefer, which is similar in that it's more of a game of the choices that you make before you get into combat than it is the choices that you make during the combat. The arcade experience is great. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But that kind of fit with, sort of our vision of, hey, let's really bring technology and let's really bring sort of, the choices that people made, the planners and yourselves made, into focus. And that's more or less sort of like how we conceived of it.
I think this is a question for Corky. With the appearance of Morgana cargo ships, can we actually do Bell Wolf packs now, or somewhere in the future? And Corky is muted, so we may get that answer sometime.
No, I'm here. Submarine warfare played out because of the cargo ships is a brainchild of Two Heavens. So he usually goes around and asks everyone what you like to do for submarine warfare and those Morgana cargo ships.
Calc went more in a gameplay sense.
And I'm getting there. And it's an entirely meta game thing. So Morgana cargo ships are nowhere in the game. And I wouldn't know. I can't remember having talked about it game-wise. Only meta game.
Are there any plans to include anything like that, gameplay-wise, mechanically?
Sure. Yeah. But right,
yeah,
first things first.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of plans.
I see Vez has a question to Exeter's refit. Exeter almost certainly had a passive ASDIC. I'm not aware that she had any active. If she did, it's probably for understanding depth, right? And not necessarily for hunting subs, but that's the joy of the game, right? You can toss all that in there, and if you were to find that definitively on September 1st, 1939, she carried such a system, yeah, sure, we'd put it in there for sure.
All right. Apothes wants to know if stability on fighters actually modeled.
Yes.
Is the base stability of fighters different? It does not have the stat displayed, but the tooltip implies it exists.
Yeah. Yes and yes.
Okay.
But we need to expose that. But yeah, it is different.
That's fair. I don't get all the plain math. That's not my field. I just remember doing the crew testing in beta. So much crew testing.
All right, I see Free Jones. Any other questions?
We'll see if Free Jones has a question. Otherwise, might be good to call it then. I know at the very least I need to go start making dinner.
Don't we all?
Just
Yeah, my
past
cat's getting
midnight.
hungry.
We just past midnight,
well-
and I have to get up tomorrow.
So Free Jones, there's nothing that would stop us, right, from deploying it. Got more than enough channels to do it. The reason why you've been seeing it with bells is because it happens to be a very convenient way, right, to do it. Yeah, probably for some important equipment, you might expect to see that appear in the diplomatic channels store, which is probably likely where it would be. Yeah, it's a great question, Toxic Tuna. And in fact, actually, at one point we had land-based aircraft that had the exact ability to do that. And of course, it was hilarious to try to get everybody to sync up, right? Just as it was in the real world. Yeah, there's nothing stopping you from doing that apart from the mechanics. I don't know, Rose. That sounds like that needs to be an event, though, doesn't it?
Well, that's if they decide to do it, I guess.
You just do it. You take a 38 and put it on a Shannost.
Oh, Calca, I don't know if that's a toughie per se. So from a gameplay perspective, right? At least, and this may just be my opinion. I think Azure Lane does a fantastic job at doing little, bullet hell kind of naval warfare. I love everything about it. I think that's a super fun game. Maybe what attracts us, right, is not really the arcade style gameplay. Maybe we're more of the turn-based, prep simulation, see how you did. Kind of gamers, to begin with. I do think that it would be good to have more interaction. I don't know if that comes in the form of quote unquote buckets, right, or other togglables. But I kind of doubt that we would do it too much differently, simply because it really does achieve the goals that originally attracted us, right, to the game concept. Maybe we'd start with R&D 2.0. How about that? That would be that's what
R&D 2.0. It always comes back to R&D 2.0.
Well, it's really cool. That's all I have to say.
What happens after R&D 2.0?
Yeah, well then you get 3.0.
Yeah.
He just wants to know if you can. I guess can you even say who the design artist of the 1940 class is? Is that something?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of artists, and including Salmon. But you've seen in the latest bells that we've got other artists who are working. Salmon did the whole set, the whole class of 1939. Yeah, we've added artists for sure, but he's in there too.
And I think we'll take Uber Random's question there as the last one, because I do need to get going.
Got it. Some of all, no, they're independent chances, Uber Random, because presumably there's an operator at each one. So what you're probably seeing is the significant increase in probability of detection once you have those backing operators, is my guess.
All right then. Well, thank you everyone for coming to the first Q&A of 2024. I will try and plan the next one at a more palatable hours or set of hours for everyone. This one was a little rushed and I didn't have much time to plan it. Other than that, I think that's everything. Thanks as always, Div.
Yeah, just real quick, let me take a look at what Uber Random wrote here.
Yep.
I don't know. That seems kind of weird. So you're saying you don't have any backing RDF in the other slots. It's just you've been putting a lot of stats into MB2, MB3. I wonder if there's some bleed over like there is on damage. That's curious. You know what? Go ahead and toss in a bug report if you wouldn't mind, Uber. I would appreciate that.